The late afternoon sun hung low over the rolling hills of the high plains, casting a warm amber glow over the dry, scraggly grass. Dust stirred in faint swirls as the lone cowboy rode along a faint trail, the weight of solitude heavy on his shoulders. He was a man more comfortable with silence than with the chatter of a town, and the wide, open spaces were his only companions. His horse, a sturdy bay with a white blaze on its forehead, carried him with patient steps, ears flicking to every whisper of the wind. The trail wound closer to a ridge where a small patch of mesquite broke the monotony of the plain. It was there that the cowboy heard the first faint cry, high-pitched and frantic. He slowed his horse, ears pricking, scanning the horizon. At first, he thought it might be a coyote trapped in a snare or a lost calf, but the sound was sharper, more desperate, carrying the unmistakable innocence of a young animal. He followed the cries over a small rise and spotted it. A horse foal tangled in a stretch of barbed wire that had been abandoned along the edge of an old pasture. Its legs flailed uselessly, the light chestnut coat streaked with dust and small scratches from the wire. The cowboy dismounted, his boots crunching on the dry soil. "Easy now, little fella," he said softly, moving cautiously. He could feel the foal's panic, its small body trembling. The foal cried out again, straining against the wire, and the cowboy's heart went tight in his chest. He worked slowly, undoing the snarled wire with careful hands, taking care not to cut the animal further. Sweat ran down his face in the heat, but he didn't hurry. Patience was the only tool he had that mattered right now. After several tense minutes, the foal was free. It stumbled, then fell into the cowboy's chest, shivering from exhaustion and fear. "You're okay now," he murmured, rubbing its neck and feeling the rapid heartbeats settle against his palms. The foal snuffled, leaning against him as if seeking warmth and safety. He could feel a strange connection forming, a pull of instinct between man and animal. And then, as if sensing gratitude, the foal trotted a few steps ahead and turned to look back at him, nickered softly and started down a narrow path into the hills. The cowboy frowned. Paths in this country rarely led anywhere good. But there was something in the foal's eyes, something pleading yet determined. Against his better judgment, he followed. The trail wound into a canyon, the sun now dipping toward the horizon, turning the sky into streaks of fire and violet. Shadows lengthened and the air grew cooler, carrying a faint scent of damp earth and something older, something forgotten. The foal paused at the edge of a rocky outcrop, pawing at the dirt. Below, partially hidden by a tangle of wild sagebrush, was the mouth of an abandoned mine. Its timbers were splintered and the entrance yawned like a dark wound against the hillside. A faint echo, the hollow drip of water, carried from within. The cowboy squinted. Mines had a way of swallowing men whole, and he didn't step lightly into their histories. He dismounted, holding the reins loosely. "You want me to follow you in there, huh?" he asked. The foal whinnied, nudged him gently, then turned its head toward the darkness. The cowboy adjusted his hat, reached for the rope coiled at his saddle, and took a deep breath. Old instincts stirred in him. He knew the dangers of mines, the way the earth could shift, the chance of hidden shafts. But he also knew the foal would not lead him unless there was reason. Stepping carefully, he entered the mine, the wooden timbers creaking under his weight. The air was cooler here, musty with dust and the tang of minerals. He could hear the faint squeak of rats and the drip of water echoing in the distance. He kept moving, letting the foal lead, trusting its instinct more than his own eyes. It moved confidently, sure-footed over loose rocks, pausing at every fork as if weighing which path would bring him closer to whatever it wanted him to find. It wasn't long before he noticed faint markings on the walls, scratches too deliberate to be random. A small handprint here, a scuff there, the faint remnants of chalk or coal marks that seemed to guide the way. His stomach knotted. Children. His mind raced with possibilities. The foal had found them? Somehow, it knew. He clenched his jaw and pressed onward, the darkness deepening as the light from the entrance faded. Deeper in the mine, he finally saw them. 3 children huddled together near a wooden support, their clothes torn, faces smudged with dirt, eyes wide with fear and hope alike. They were no older than 10 or 11, and their small hands clutched each other like lifelines. When the foal entered the chamber, it neighed loudly, nuzzling each child in turn. A sense of recognition passed between them, a bond forged in desperation and relief. The cowboy's heart ached as he approached. "Hey there," he said gently, holding his hands out, careful not to frighten them. "I'm here to get you out. It's all right now." Their eyes widened, disbelief and relief mingling in the dim light. "We've been lost," one of the children whispered. "We went exploring, and then the tunnel caved." He nodded, kneeling beside them. I know, it's all right. We're going to get you home." His eyes darted around the tunnel, mapping the safest route. The children trembled, some from cold, some from fear. He pulled off his coat and wrapped it around the smallest child, rubbing their arms to restore warmth. The foal pawed at the ground impatiently, nudging toward the exit. The cowboy understood. Time was precious. Minds were unpredictable. Loose earth could shift without warning, and the weight of fear could crush the smallest courage. He took a deep breath, coaxed the children into following, and kept the foal close, letting its instincts guide their way. They moved slowly but steadily, the cowboy first, the foal leading, the children following in a trembling line. Every step was measured, every loose rock avoided. The sound of dripping water and shifting earth echoed behind them, a reminder of how dangerous their plight had been. But forward they pressed, toward light, toward safety, toward the world above that had seemed so distant and unattainable. Finally, after what felt like an eternity in the oppressive dark, they saw the glow of the sun cutting through the tunnel's entrance. The children gasped, shielding their eyes from the sudden brilliance. Outside, the air was warm, sweet with the scent of dry grass and wildflowers. The foal nuzzled each child, triumphant, proud, and exhausted all at once. The cowboy exhaled, a deep, weary sound as relief washed over him. The children laughed, uncertain at first, then freely, as if the sunlight itself had healed the terror from their small bodies. He smiled, brushing dirt from his face and looking at the foal. "You did good, little fella," he said. The foal nickered, tossing its head proudly, as though it understood every word. The cowboy knew their troubles weren't over. They would need food, water, and a ride back to town. But the immediate danger had passed, and in that moment, with the foal at his side and the children safe in the sunlight, he felt something he hadn't in a long time: hope. The cowboy scanned the horizon, trying to get his bearings. The canyon stretched wide and rugged, dotted with scrub and jagged rocks. The sun was sinking fast, painting the sky in streaks of pink and orange, and he knew that night would come quick in these parts. The children clung to each other, exhausted but unharmed, while the foal trotted around them like a guardian, ears alert to every sound. "We need to move," he said softly. "There's a homestead not too far from here. You'll be safe there." The eldest child, a boy with tangled brown hair and a streak of dirt across his forehead, nodded, gripping his sister's hand. Can the horse carry us?" he asked timidly, glancing at the foal. The cowboy smiled faintly. "Not this one, little fella's too young, but we'll manage on foot. I've got a horse, and it'll help carry some of your things if needed." He walked them back toward the trail, the foal following close, nudging the youngest child with its nose to reassure them. The path wound through a series of narrow ridges, each step a cautious negotiation with loose gravel and hidden holes. The cowboy kept scanning for danger, though the canyon seemed quiet now. Yet he knew better. Silence in the west was rarely peaceful. It was just waiting. As they descended, the boy asked, Who are you?" The cowboy chuckled softly, stroking the foal's mane absent-mindedly. "Just a cowboy. Rode these plains a long time, mostly by myself." He squatted beside the children, offering a small smile. "You can call me Tom. And you?" The children exchanged glances. "I'm Mary, and this is John and little Emma," the eldest said. We were exploring the mine. We didn't mean to get lost." "I know," Tom said gently. "But the mine's no place for kids. Too dangerous. I'm glad the little foal found me, or we might not have seen you in time." Mary looked at the foal, eyes wide. It led you to us?" she asked. Tom nodded. "Yes. Animals sometimes know things we don't. This little one saw something I couldn't. Lucky for all of us." The shadows stretched long across the canyon walls, and Tom knew it was time to get moving. He led the way down a steeper slope, keeping one hand on a child when the ground got tricky. Emma stumbled once, and the foal nudged her back upright, as if scolding her gently for losing her footing. Tom laughed, a sound of relief mingled with exhaustion. "All right, we're almost there. Stay close." Finally, the canyon widened into a small valley where the remnants of an old homestead crouched against the horizon. A weathered wooden house, partially collapsed barns, and rusted equipment told the story of a family that had long since moved on, or vanished. Still, Tom recognized it from maps he had studied when wandering these plains. There was a spring nearby, and the terrain offered cover from wild animals. It would do for the night. As they approached, Tom's eyes caught movement among the trees. A coyote darted across the field, stopping to sniff the air before disappearing into the brush. He nudged the children down low, heart hammering briefly. Out here, danger was never far. But the foal, calm and alert, moved beside them, ears twitching as if warning of any hidden threat. Inside the small house, remnants of past life were scattered. An old stove, a broken table, and tattered curtains fluttering in the evening breeze. Tom quickly assessed the space. It wasn't much, but it would shield them from the cold desert night. "This will do for now," he said. The children moved in cautiously, inspecting the worn floorboards and dusty furniture. They sat in a tight circle, breathing heavily, while Tom set about making a small fire in the stove with dry wood he found nearby. The foal stayed just outside the doorway, watching the horizon. Its small body shivered occasionally from the cool air, but it refused to rest completely. Tom tossed a blanket over its back and patted its neck. "You've done your duty tonight, little one. Rest now." The foal nuzzled him briefly, then lay down on the warm dirt, eyes half closed. Mary spoke up, her voice soft. Will someone come looking for us?" Tom paused. He knew the nearest town was miles away, and the children's disappearance might already be noticed. "Yes," he said carefully. "Someone will come. But until then, we need to keep safe, and that means staying here until morning. You're not alone. Anymore." Night fell fully, and the valley grew quiet. The fire crackled in the stove, throwing flickering shadows on the walls. The children huddled together under Tom's coat while he kept watch by the doorway, listening to the sounds of the night, the rustle of leaves, the distant howl of coyotes, the whisper of wind through the canyon. The foal occasionally stirred, nuzzling the children or nudging Tom when it sensed movement outside. Tom thought about the mine and the dangers the children had faced. The tunnels, unstable and dark, could have swallowed them without a trace. How lucky they had been, guided by a small, determined creature who knew what humans sometimes could not. He shook his head, marveling at the foal's courage. It had risked itself, wandering into a mine full of hazards to lead him to these children. The night stretched long, but they remained safe, huddled together for warmth. Tom told stories to distract the children from their fear, stories of the plains, of hidden valleys, of wild mustangs and daring escapes. The foal, lying near the doorway, occasionally lifted its head, listening, as if it understood every word. For the first time in weeks, Tom allowed himself a small smile. Perhaps this night, this strange chain of events had given him more than just the satisfaction of rescue. It had given him a sense of purpose again. When the first hint of dawn colored the sky in pale gold, Tom woke the children gently. "Time to move," he said quietly. The foal rose immediately, ready to guide them again. "We'll head down the valley to the main trail. There's a ranch not far from here. You'll be safe and fed there." The children nodded, sleepy but eager to leave the night behind. Outside, the air was cool and crisp. The canyon stretched before them, bathed in morning light. Tom mounted his horse and gestured for the children to follow, one by one, holding their hands when the trail got tricky. The foal trotted ahead, ears pricked, eyes scanning for danger. Together, the small group made their way across the valley, the memory of the mine fading behind them, but never forgotten. By mid-morning, they reached a well-kept ranch where the owners were already tending to chores. The sight of children and a cowboy arriving with a foal immediately drew concern and curiosity. Tom explained briefly, keeping it simple. "Found them lost in an abandoned mine. They're safe now." The rancher's eyes widened in alarm, then softened in relief as they saw the children safe and unharmed. Mary, John, and Emma ran into the ranch house, faces lighting up with joy at the sight of food, water, and adults who cared. Tom dismounted, rubbing the foal's neck. "You did good," he said softly. The foal nickered, pressing against him one last time before turning toward the ranch gates, almost as if it understood its work was complete. Tom watched the foal trot back toward the hills, small and fearless, a creature who had bridged the gap between life and death. He felt a twinge of sadness to see it go, but knew that some spirits belonged to the wild, untamed, free. He adjusted his hat and turned toward the ranch house, ready to help the children and explain the events to the relieved adults. It wasn't often that life in the West offered miracles, but this day had delivered one in the form of a small, determined foal and a cowboy who had followed its lead. And as the sun climbed higher, painting the valley gold, Tom knew that somehow he had found more than lost children. He had found a reminder that even in the harshest of lands, courage, kindness, and instinct could lead the way. The ranch was bustling with activity by mid-morning. Horses neighed, cattle stirred, and the smell of fresh bread wafted from the kitchen. Tom stayed near the entrance, watching the children disappear inside. Mary and John laughed nervously as they recounted the ordeal to the ranchers, their voices mingled with relief and awe, while little Emma clung to a kindly matron who fussed over her, brushing dust from her tangled hair. Tom stepped aside for a moment, leaning against his horse and letting the morning sun warm his back. The foal, restless as ever, pawed at the ground nearby, ears swiveling toward every movement. Tom studied it, considering how a creature so small and seemingly fragile had guided him safely through the mine. It had risked everything for these children, following instincts that no man could replicate. He couldn't help but marvel at the bond they had formed in such a short time, a bond of trust forged in danger and uncertainty. "Tom," called a voice from the porch. The ranch owner, a sturdy man with sun-leathered skin and eyes sharp with concern, approached. "You found these children in that blasted old mine? That place has been closed for years. Thought it had swallowed everyone who went in." He shook his head, muttering under his breath. "I can't believe it." "Yes, sir," Tom said quietly. "They were lucky. The foal. It led me right to them. I wouldn't have found them otherwise." The rancher raised an eyebrow, glancing at the foal. "That little thing?" he said, incredulous. "Animals have their ways, I suppose. I'll be damned. Never seen a horse foal act like that before?" Tom smiled faintly. "Neither have I. Seems there's more to this land than what meets the eye." The rancher nodded, then led him toward the children, who were now seated at a long table, being fed hot porridge. Mary's eyes lit up as she saw him approach. "Will they be okay?" she asked, glancing at the adults around her. "They'll be fine," Tom assured her. "You've got good people here. They'll make sure you're safe and fed. That's all that matters right now." John and Emma nodded, shy but relieved. The relief in their eyes was a balm to Tom's own weariness. After days of solitude and endless dust, it felt good to see lives restored, to witness hope where there had only been fear. Once the children were settled, Tom finally allowed himself a moment to breathe. He walked back to the foal, crouching to pat its neck. "You've done good work, little one. Saved more than just a life tonight. You brought hope." The foal nuzzled him gently, then tossed its head and trotted toward the edge of the valley, restless as always. Tom sighed. Freedom was the foal's nature, and he couldn't hold it here. As the morning wore on, the rancher insisted on checking the old mine. "If it's still open, who knows what else might be in there," he said. Tom followed, the children trailing behind, curious but warned to stay close. The mine loomed dark and foreboding against the hillside, a hollow scar where men had once sought fortune and found danger. Its timbers were rotting, and the entrance was partially collapsed in places, yet the path the foal had taken was still visible, a faint trail of hoofprints and scuffed earth. Tom knelt, examining the path. "The foal went right through here," he said. "It knew exactly where to go. There must have been signs the children left behind, disturbed soil, small markings, but it was the foal's instincts that guided me." The rancher shook his head. "Animals have more sense than we give them credit for. Clever little beast." The children peered cautiously into the mine, curiosity outweighing fear. Mary asked softly, Do people still go in there?" Tom glanced at her. "Not safely. Mines like this can shift in an instant. You never know what's hidden beneath the surface. You were lucky to be found." She nodded, shivering slightly despite the warmth of the sun. Tom and the rancher spent the next hour reinforcing the entrance, blocking dangerous paths and marking safe routes. The children helped where they could, carrying small stones or pointing out spots that looked particularly unstable. It was exhausting work, but necessary. Tom felt the weight of responsibility settle over him again, a familiar burden. This time, though, it was tempered by the knowledge that he wasn't alone. There were others willing to help, and a small miracle in the form of a foal had guided the way. By midday, the children were restless. Emma tugged at Tom's sleeve. "Can we see the foal?" she asked. He smiled. "Of course," he said, leading them out to where the animal waited. The foal nickered happily at the sight of them, ears flicking in recognition. Mary laughed, holding out a hand. The foal sniffed it, then nudged her gently, as if greeting an old friend. Tom watched the scene quietly. He felt a strange sense of completion, as if this moment tied together days of wandering, days of solitude, and days of danger into something meaningful. The foal had given him purpose, the children had reminded him of humanity, and the vast, untamed land around them felt less lonely. For the first time in a long while, he felt a sense of belonging, even if fleeting, in a world defined by isolation. The afternoon sun climbed high, and the children were finally called inside by the ranch matron, who had prepared fresh clothes and warm baths. Tom lingered outside, watching the foal graze in the soft grass, ears twitching at distant sounds. He wondered how many more stories the land held, hidden in abandoned mines and canyons, waiting for someone or some creature to uncover them. As he prepared to leave, the rancher approached. "You're welcome to stay for supper, Tom. Can't let a hero of the plains walk off hungry." Tom nodded, appreciating the gesture. "I might take you up on that," he said. He glanced back at the foal one last time, thinking about how it had risked itself to save children who might never have been found. Animals, he reflected, often understood bravery in ways humans could only aspire to. The children waved from the porch as Tom mounted his horse. Mary called, "Thank you." John added, "We'll never forget you." Emma simply waved shyly, a small smile on her face. Tom tipped his hat. "Take care of each other," he said. "And remember, The world can be wild, but there's always a way through if you trust the right guide. As he rode away, the foal's figure faded into the valley behind him, a small, determined shadow against the hills. Tom knew that life would continue here. Stories would be told, and perhaps others would venture too close to the mine, drawn by curiosity. But for now, the children were safe. The foal had fulfilled its strange, heroic purpose, and he could return to the open plains, though forever changed by the courage and trust he had witnessed that day. The wind stirred the dust along the trail, carrying with it the faint echoes of laughter, the soft nicker of a foal, and the lingering sense that even in the harshest of landscapes, small acts of courage could turn the tide. Tom rode on, thinking of the mine, the children, and the little foal who had taught him that instinct and bravery often came in the most unexpected forms. The afternoon faded into evening, and Tom rode steadily across the plains, the wind tugging at his coat and the fading sun painting the horizon in gold and rose. He couldn't shake the image of the foal leading him through the mine, nor the wide-eyed children huddled in the dim light of the tunnel. There was a strange kind of magic in that memory, a reminder that even in a world hardened by dust, heat, and danger, small acts of courage could shine brighter than the harshest sun. By the time he reached the ridgeline, he paused and looked back at the valley below. The ranch sat like a quiet oasis amidst the rugged landscape, smoke curling from a chimney, children's laughter faint on the wind, and somewhere beyond the ridge the foal roamed free, its small frame a beacon of instinct and bravery. Tom felt a pang of longing. He had grown fond of the little creature in the short span of hours, and yet he knew its place was not tethered to any man. He adjusted his saddle, taking a deep breath of the crisp evening air. The plains stretched endlessly before him, vast and untamed. He'd wandered these lands for years, living on the edge of towns, riding from one canyon to another, seeking nothing and finding little. Yet that day had reminded him that life could still surprise, that trust, whether in a foal or a stranger, could change the course of events. He felt lighter, as if the weight of solitude had lifted, replaced with a quiet appreciation for the small miracles the world offered. Night fell slowly over the plains, stars emerging one by one, scattered across the velvet sky. Tom rode by the dim glow of distant campfires. Silhouettes of mesas etched against the horizon, and the occasional hoot of an owl accompanied him. Memories of the mine haunted him gently. Images of dark tunnels, trembling children, and the soft, urgent nicker of a foal guiding him through. He realized he would carry those images for the rest of his life, a story to tell the wind and the open land. In the following days, Tom stayed near the valley, checking in on the children from a distance. He observed them thriving under the care of the ranchers, their laughter louder, their spirits lighter. Mary had taken to helping in the barn. John was fascinated by the horses, and little Emma clung less tightly to her new guardians, finding confidence in the safety surrounding her. Tom smiled quietly from the hills, feeling a sense of closure. The children were not only safe, they were growing stronger, shaped by the very ordeal that had once terrified them. Word of the rescue spread through nearby settlements, carried on whispers and wagon wheels. The story of the cowboy guided by a foal to save children trapped in an abandoned mine became legend among the locals. Some swore the foal possessed supernatural insight, while others credited pure instinct in the cowboy's courage. Tom didn't mind the embellishments. Facts and tales often blended on the plains, and in truth, he had little interest in claiming glory. His satisfaction came quietly in the knowledge that lives had been saved and that the land, with all its dangers, had shown its kinder side. One morning, weeks later, Tom returned to the mouth of the abandoned mine. He approached slowly, tracing the path where the foal had led him. Sunlight spilled across the valley floor, illuminating the scattered rocks and weathered timbers. He ran a hand over the cool wood of the mine's entrance, thinking of the children's frightened faces and the foal's unwavering determination. The memory was vivid, still, alive as if the land itself remembered. Tom knelt and scratched a small mark in the dirt, a silent acknowledgement of the events, a token of gratitude to the foal that had saved lives. "You did good," he murmured to the wind, imagining the foal standing proud just beyond the ridge, watching. "You showed more courage than most men ever will." The wind carried his words across the canyon, rustling sagebrush and bending tall grass as if echoing his sentiment. He mounted his horse and began to ride again, this time toward the open plains, where the horizon seemed endless and possibilities were vast. The children were safe, the ranch secure, and the foal had vanished into the wilds where it belonged. Yet the cowboy knew that even in solitude, he would never be truly alone. He carried with him the proof of bravery and instinct, of trust earned in peril, and of life's unpredictable, quiet miracles. Days turned to weeks, and Tom continued his wandering, occasionally catching glimpses of small hoofprints along trails or the faint shadow of a foal on a distant ridge. Each sighting reminded him of that night and day in the mine, of the bond between human and animal, of the extraordinary in the ordinary. He would ride, he would help where he could, and he would keep faith in the unseen guides of the plains, knowing that courage often came on 4 legs rather than 2. Evenings brought quiet reflection. Tom would sit beside campfires, listening to the crackle of flames, the whisper of wind, and the occasional nicker of a distant horse. He would think of Mary, John, and Emma, safe and growing stronger under the care of kind hands. He would think of the foal, racing free across the hills, a small guardian of the land, and he would smile. For the first time in a long while, he felt that his place in the world, though transient, had mattered. The story of that day, the foal tangled in barbed wire, the mine that swallowed the children, and the miraculous guidance that led to their rescue, became part of local lore. Travelers spoke of it as a tale of hope, courage, and trust, a reminder that even in the harshest corners of the West, life could shine with unexpected brilliance. And though Tom never sought recognition, he allowed the story to live on, a testament to the bond between humans, animals, and the untamed land they called home. Years later, when Tom rode past the old mine again, he would pause and look toward the ridge where the foal had vanished into the horizon. He imagined it watching, vigilant, a spirit of instinct and bravery roaming free. And in that moment, he understood fully. The plains were alive with unseen guides, quiet heroes who risked themselves for the sake of others, and that even a lone cowboy could witness and be shaped by acts of true courage. The wind whispered across the canyon, carrying dust, scents, and stories. Tom tipped his hat to the vastness of the land, feeling gratitude in its purest form. The foal had saved lives, the children had found safety, and he had been privileged to witness it all. And as night fell, stars scattering like distant fires across the sky, the cowboy rode on, forever changed, forever guided by the memory of a small, fearless creature who had shown him that even the wildest places could harbor hope. The plains stretched on, unending and untamed. But Tom rode with the quiet certainty that courage, trust, and compassion could light the darkest minds, guide the lost to safety, and leave a lasting imprint on the world, one hoofprint, one brave act at a time.